I'm still kind of soaking it in. I've seen this film a few times now, and every time I need like a few minutes just to process the beauty and all the wonderfulness in this film. I have so many questions for you. But I'm going to start with this. I'm going to open it up to you all very soon, so start thinking of your own questions for Sean. We will have a microphone going around, so start thinking, planting that seed now. First off, how are you doing? I only mean that, and you mentioned South by Southwest, which was about a year ago. This has been a wild year for you. You have been touring with this film. You also have your feature debut, Didi, that just premiered at Sundance, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, hopefully. But now the Academy Award nomination, it's just been, it must have, how are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, it's definitely a lot. I think premiering my first feature film at Sundance is, you know, who that Heather and V worked on over there. That was an out-of-body experience in and of itself, and getting to kind of put into the world, the world, you know, SFFilm has supported it since, what, 2020, 2021. It's been something I've been working on for 6 or 7 years. To have that be out into the world and have that whirlwind experience was something I don't think I'll ever fully process in and of itself. And then in the middle of that week, we got nominated for an Oscar, which is, again, another out-of-body experience that I will never fully process. And so everything since has kind of just been like, this is all good, I will process it one day, but moment to moment, it's incredible, and the only downside is like I'm a little tired, you know, is not the worst thing.
If you all have not seen the video that you posted of you finding out that your film was nominated with your family, you have to Google that right after this, because it's pure joy, enthusiasm. I mean, you just kind of mentioned it now, but what was that feeling when you found out that this film, out of the thousands of films, documentaries, was selected by the Academy Awards?
I mean, it's an insane sentence to say out loud. Like, my grandma got nominated for an Oscar. This movie was made with the purest of intentions, and obviously, you know, part of it was, again, going back to the trying to make an antidote to the anti-Asian hate crimes and making something that felt like these two women in my life, the ordinariness of their lives, when you zoom in, it is extraordinary. They are extraordinary. Their existence in and of itself is worthy of the big screen experience. That was, you know, the sort of stake we were planting in the ground. I had no idea we'd get nominated for an Oscar. You know, like, that was never the goal or the plan, but, you know, I think hopefully it means that, you know, people are resonating with it, and again, I think we made this film so that people like them and them would feel seen in a way that I think they never had before, and so in that sense, you know, that's what the Academy Award nomination really is meaningful for. They get this platform to play. Like, they're living it up right now. Like, they're killing the red carpet. So I really feel like I'm just here to support them and have this moment.
I can only imagine it's impossible to think of all the things that happened this last year. You know, one thing that resonated while watching this right now was them, you know, talking about they're okay with whatever happens in the next few years. They've lived a rich life. Did you think any of this, making this film, would make them the stars that they are, and that this year, next year, you know, is so much more than they might have thought it was going to be?
No, and I mean, they've gotten to kind of, the special thing about making this, like, from making it to putting it out and now doing this campaign Oscar experience I've never been a part of, they're really in it with me. You know, I get to bring them to the luncheon, and they're coming to the Oscars, and we do press together, and I think it really is this additive experience to their everyday life. I think if they were sort of allergic to the attention and allergic to the spotlight, it would be a very strange experience for me, because it was like, oh, well, this thing that's happening to me, like, they don't like, but they really love it, and I think, well, I think part of it also is, and I didn't really realize this until, you know, just these last few weeks, but I knew they were creative and playful and silly. Like I knew that side of them. That was something I had known just from growing up with them. But I think so much of their lives, their primary purpose was not being creative or being silly. They never had a platform for any of this. And I think, they didn't always live together. Wai Po used to live in Taiwan, and I used to go back to Taiwan once or twice a month every summer for my entire childhood, almost, like up until I was in my late teens. And her primary role as a human was a caretaker for my grandfather. That's how I knew her, too. It's like she spends every day caring for my grandfather who was paralyzed. I never had a real conversation with my grandfather on my mom's side. And so when he passed away, that's when she moved to America and ended up sort of staying with my family, being roommates with Nai Nai, and, them having this sort of, I think they both lost their husbands similar, so they sort of found each other in this sort of late stage of life. But for my grandmother, I've only ever known her as, this, woman who takes care of my grandfather. For her to be on the red carpet at the Oscars and like live, that is so, like, that to me is the why, that's what makes the whole thing really special. I don't know what I'm saying.
You said in a previous interview that this is a film about your grandmas, but it's also a film that they star in. And you talked about their creativity. This is a kind of a hybrid documentary where you are chronicling the things that those nuances that only someone who's kind of connected with them can really share, but also there are performative components as well. And so can you talk about, and your history is more docs. So can you talk about the construction of this and how you balanced the creativity, working closely with your grandmas, and then trying to capture something that's authentic to your own experience?
For sure. I just want to say real quickly, the person who did this incredible art is in the room, Felicia Chow. I just want to shout her out because she's been at so many screenings of ours, and I always forget to thank her. And she's incredible. She did the poster, and we clearly utilized it way more than we should. Yeah, well, I think it went back to this idea of, kind of trying to capture that childlike youthfulness that really comes from them. And, it's not the first time we've, made something together. The whole thing started where in 2018 I made this, I call it a Christmas card. Sam, our cinematographer and one of our producers, is like, dude, it's not a Christmas card, it's a video. And I'm like, whatever. But it's a 1-minute video where it's kind of like one of the skits in the film where they basically try to feed me, and then I say, no, Grandma, you're so annoying, and then she's like, eat. I'm like, no, and then she looks in the camera, slaps me. She looks at Nai Nai, Wai Po looks at Nai Nai, and they basically plot to kill me. And they pick me up, slap me, they start doing the worm, they start lighting things on fire, and then they slap me, or they spank me, and then they basically kill me, bury me in the backyard, and then it says Happy Holidays. So I knew that they had this, they were down to do the crazy and the chaotic and the silly. But I think ultimately it was that combined with, we knew that there was this very silly, surreal, heightened version of this movie, which I kind of see it as there's the movie that they're in, and then the movie of their lives. And the movie that they're in, they're the movie stars of their own movie. And that's when we're using, filmmaking language like jump cuts and music and these really stylized sequences that help, bring this sort of, style to it that makes it feel a little, just like you're floating above reality. And then there's the things in the movie that are incredibly patient, observant, for lack of a better word, mundane, almost like you're just peering into someone's everyday life. And I wanted those two rhythms to kind of complement each other. And so that was kind of it. It was balancing and we never wanted to lie to the audience either. We never wanted it to be like, this is a pure documentary, and then we're obviously staging things and putting them in, making them arm wrestle. But that was sort of the balance. It was, how do we make that authentic too? Because I think it is authentic to my relationship with them. Like when we're together, I'm filming stuff with them. And so it really was that. It was balancing the hyper, realistic, mundane, quotidian rhythms of their life with the most insane, chaotic, surreal, heightened version of what the movie of their lives would be.
One part of this film that I think about is as they talk about choosing happiness and joy, and I've had the opportunity and real privilege to see your other works, seen applications that you have applied for grants and such. And I think that
Thank you.
the joy is there too. Like, I think you lead with this like just kind of enthusiasm and joy. And I'm curious, what have your grandmas contributed to your like creative world? Like, do you think either spiritually or emotionally, like how have they shaped you potentially as a filmmaker?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, I think without even knowing it, they have, right? I think even going back to the thing I just talked about of, you know, the Christmas card we made with them, that never in a million years did I think that would be a proof of concept for a short film that gets nominated for an Oscar. It's insane, it's chaos. But I think it goes back to the root of why we made that. It was because when I'm in the room with them, the relationship I have with them is one of just unbridled joy and this sort of infectious youthfulness and silliness and creativity in a way. Like I'm with them and they start dancing and I'm like, I just want to film this, and so they bring this thing out of me that I don't feel with anybody else, you know, and it is this very pure form of love and joy and protection. And so I think I've realized, you know, I've made a lot of films about things that are personal. I mean, I believe that personal doesn't have to mean autobiographical, but I think I have made things that are certainly personal and autobiographical to a certain degree. And I realize I kind of turn the camera on my grandmothers or like my mother or my friends and all these things that I'm feeling is because if filmmaking is all about translating an emotion, in my day-to-day life as a filmmaker, the things I feel, I'm just processing it. And like when I feel a lot of one thing, I'm like, there's something here that's like so potent, and it's something to mine, right? It's like I feel so strong, and like that was the thing with this movie. It was, I felt so angry with the anti-Asian hate crimes that were happening, and then I would hang out with them. I would feel so much joy and so much love and so much fear, you know, fear of losing them. I had this thought that, because I was living at home and I was eventually going to move to Los Angeles where I live now, and I had this thought, and it's kind of in the movie, but I had this thought that the next time I leave home, it could be the last time I see my grandma, at least Nai Nai, you know, I could feel her fragility. And so I was just feeling the most of every emotion that I could be feeling at that time, and that was the sort of impetus for this. It was like, I feel so much, there's something here that is able to be translated to an audience. So in that sense, you know, it's because I feel so much with them that it feels like, okay, there's something here. We should explore it.
You have